Greetings, friends, and welcome to Passing the Peace. This is an intergenerational peacemakers training that's being offered by Disciples Peace Fellowship. We're going to get started now with our very first of our 5-day sessions. This is our chance to meet the interns, and I am so excited to be able to introduce you to Wendy, Raphael, and Jennifer so that you can get a chance to hear about the wonderful work they've been doing this summer and get to know them just a little bit as well. Friends, my name is Brian Frederick Gray. I am the Mission Director for Disciples Peace Fellowship. Formally, my title is the Director of Mission Support and the Peace Intern Program, which means one of the very best things I get to do is spend time working with our wonderful Peace Interns every single summer. I want to tell you just a couple of things as we get started. First, about passing the peace training that we have, and the second is about our Peace Intern Program. So let me have about a minute for each one of those, if I could. Some of you will remember that Passing the Peace was initially envisioned as an in-person training event that we were going to have on the day before the Poor People's March and Moral Assembly in Washington, D.C. And then COVID-19 happened. And it was no longer safe to be able to gather in numbers like that or to expect that we were going to be at a national event of that sort. We had already received a generous grant from Week of Compassion to help make that possible, so that all of our peace interns were going to be in DC for the week of that event. And we were going to bring in some trainers for a day-long seminar where we were going to be getting our spirits right in advance of that Poor People's Campaign assembly and event. Instead, we have re-envisioned what this event is going to be and turned it into an online experience that is a capstone project for our peace interns. So over the next 5 days, we'll have sessions where you'll be hearing directly from Wendy, Raphael, and Jennifer about the different workshops and programs that they've put together this summer. It's incredibly exciting and a wonderful opportunity and is brand new. Something we haven't done before as Disciples Peace Fellowship. You'll be hearing that a lot as we go through our Meet the Interns session today, hearing about all of the new things that they have been up to and doing. I'm willing to bet just about everyone in this room has heard about DPF and Peace Interns before, but just in case, let me tell you what that means. Disciples Peace Fellowship is the oldest the oldest denominational peace fellowship in the United States. We have had peace interns, believe it or not, since 1975, when the very first peace intern went and spent the entire summer going from church camp to church camp as an ambassador for peace and justice. And we've had the program every summer ever since. For the last several years, we've had 3 peace interns who have gone throughout the United States and Canada, attending mostly high school, but also middle school camps, serving as staff members at those camps, but also as field level experts on issues of peace and justice. They go through a special training to be able to lead workshops throughout the summer, and they do remarkable work. That's what we thought we were going to be doing this summer as well. And then COVID-19 happened. Back in March, the Disciples Peace Fellowship
it's also got the other reason
committee made the decision that we did not feel comfortable sending peace interns out into the field this summer, but that we wanted the program to continue. And at that point, we already had 3 wonderful peace interns that we had called into the position. That's Wendy, that's Raphael, and that's Jennifer. And I am so grateful for them and for everything they've done this summer. At each point along the lines this summer, as things kept changing and moving, I went back to our 3 peace interns and asked them, is this still something that you'd like to do? Knowing full well that when they started applying for this position back in November, the world was really different. The experience was going to be different. The plan was completely different. And at each step along the way, each one of them said yes. So much so that in one email Jennifer sent to our entire group, she wrote something that I've gone back to time and again this summer when I've needed my own spirits lifted. Jennifer wrote to our whole group, definitely a lot more flexibility is being asked of us. And I can't wait to rise up to this challenge and engage in new and exciting ways. We might go down in history as legends. And then she made a hashtag in her own email, hashtag legendary DPF interns of 2020. Now, our interns may or may not know this part or not. I've been referring to them that way almost the entire summer as our legendary DPF interns of 2020. And I'm so excited, friends, that you're going to get an opportunity in this next hour and a half or so to meet them, to hear from them, to experience a little bit of what they have been up to and doing, and to get sneak previews of the next couple of sessions that are coming up where they will be delivering their workshops and seminars for you as well. So with all of that as a word of welcome and introduction, as well as explanation, I'd like to take a second to go directly to our interns now. Give them a chance to offer their own words of introduction. And so I'm hoping, interns, to hear from you. What's your name, your pronouns, your hometown and your home church, and just because I love throwing an extra question at them every time we do introductions, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? And friends, on each one of these question slides that we have ready for the interns, you'll see down at the bottom that the order is already written down and predetermined. It's because one of the things we've learned this summer is that in these virtual rooms and spaces, it can be really hard to know who's supposed to talk next. And so for each one of these questions, you'll see down at the bottom our order listed ahead of time so that we know where the conversation is headed. And so Wendy, I'll invite you to come into the virtual room and space now, unmute yourself, and share with us your introduction.
Hello, my name is Wendy Davidson, and my pronouns are she, her, and her. I'm from Bedford, Texas, and I am the pastor at First Christian Church in Woodson, Texas. Woodson is a small town of about 264, so that's fun. My favorite flavor of ice cream is Bluebell Dutch chocolate, and yes, it has to be Bluebell. That's what happens when you're from Texas.
Amen. I can vouch for Texas. I can also vouch that as near as we know, Wendy is the first peace intern in our history to also be serving a local congregation while she is doing the peace internship. And so we've really been grateful for that, Wendy, and for your commitment and the ways you've been able to share your blessings so wide. Raphael, I'd like to invite you to that introduction question now.
Hi, my name is Raphael Guillen. My pronouns are they, them, or airs. I'm currently in San Diego, California, but I consider my hometown to be Richmond, California, over in the Bay Area. My home church is Mission Gathering Christian Church here in San Diego. And my favorite ice cream flavor is fish food from Ben & Jerry's, which sounds weird, but I guarantee you it's delicious.
Amen. I love fish food as well, but only when it's the Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Yeah. Thank you, Raphael. Jennifer, how about you?
Oh, side note, I have never had Ben & Jerry's ice cream, but I love Ben & Jerry. I love their story and what they stand for. My name is Jennifer. I pronoun she, her, hers. My hometown is New Orleans, but my home church is actually in Hiram, Ohio, and that's Hiram Christian Church. And my favorite ice cream flavor is pralines and cream.
Amen. Turnabout is fair play. You know that I'm from Texas as well, because yes, Bluebell is also my choice, Wendy. For me, it's fudge brownie nut, which was the ice cream that was so coveted in my family growing up that my father had a separate freezer where he would keep his own gallon that none of us were allowed to touch. And I didn't find out about that until I had left for college. Good to be together, friends. I see folks using our chat feature as well to be able to introduce themselves. Would love to hear from you all what your favorite ice creams are too. Feel free to jump in there. Over the course of our session today, we'll have a time where I'm facilitating questions and answers with the Peace Interns. But then we're also going to have a chance towards the end that if you all have any questions as well. So please use the chat box for that too. If you'd like to type in any questions that you might have for the Peace Interns. Can't guarantee that we'll have the opportunity to get to each one of them in this session, but we'll have a couple other avenues on social media and the rest where we might be able to get to some of them later too. So please feel free, drop in any questions you might have for our Peace Interns there. Friends, throughout this experience, our peace interns have been rooting themselves in the Spirit and in prayer. They've been learning different disciplines and different prayer practices. And so one of the things that we're going to do is give them an opportunity to lead us in a time of prayer as well. We have a training week at the very beginning of the Peace Interns experience. And this year during training week, the very first person we met with was Randy Cuss, who helped to root us in practices of the Spirit and in practices of prayer. And he actually shared with us the instructions that we're going to use for this Lectio Divina prayer practice. And so I'm going to invite the Peace Interns once again to unmute themselves and to lead us through this time that is an intentional reflection on prayer and on the ways that the word reaches out and touches us.
We will be reading Genesis 32, 24 through 31, 3 times. The first time we ask that you take in the passage and allow it to register with you. At some point, your brain might say, I know this passage, and stop paying attention. Notice this, and then pay even closer attention to the reading. Genesis 32, 24 through 31. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he struck him on the hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, Let me go, for the day is breaking. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he said to him, What is your name? And he said, Jacob. Then the man said, You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with humans and have prevailed. Then Jacob asked him, Please tell me your name. But he said, Why is it that you ask my name? And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life is preserved. The sun rose upon him as he passed Peniel, limping because of his hip.
I'm going to read Genesis 32, 24 through 31 again, even more slowly. As I read the passage out loud again, even more slowly, this time, listen for a word or a phrase that shimmers or reverberates in you. Pause to reflect on that word. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he struck him on the hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, Let me go, for the day is breaking. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he said to him, What is your name? And he said, Jacob. Then the man said, You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with the humans and have prevailed. Then Jacob asked him, Please tell me your name. But he said, Why is it that you ask my name? And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life is preserved. The sun rose upon him as he passed Peniel, limping because of his hip. Here you can unmute yourself and share your word out loud.
Blessing.
Name.
Name.
Out of joint.
Prevailed.
Limping. Hip socket.
Daybreak.
I have seen.
Shall no longer be called.
Face to face.
I will not let you go.
Israel.
Wrestled. We're going to read the passage one more time, and I invite you this time to listen for how your word or your phrase might connect to your life. How does it relate to what you have seen or heard this day? How does it speak to what is happening at home, at work, in your leisure time, in your community, or in the world? Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he struck him on the hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for the day is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." Then the man said, "You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with humans, and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please, tell me your name." But he said, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life is preserved." The sun rose upon him as he passed Peniel, limping because of his hip. I invite you to once again unmute yourself or to share in the chat your response to the question that I invited you to consider during this third reading. How does your word or phrase connect to your life?
My word was face to face. And I think of all the ways I understand those words differently now. And that I never would have thought of a Zoom meeting as meeting face to face. And I wonder all of those other ways that I have missed some of the opportunities for connection, some of the places. And I'm grateful for the reminder that there are new ways that can happen.
Wrestling, again, wrestling for good communication, for clear communication, for easier communication.
some of the responses that are coming in on the chat, knowing not everyone may be able to see them. Tiffany writes, limping, signs of the struggle and being changed by the struggle. Mitch shares, my life is preserved. As a society, many are working hard to preserve life during this health crisis. Linda shares, this time wrestled stood out to me as we are wrestling with all of the events happening in our world right now. Also from the chat, Katya shares, bless me. All the many blessings that me, my family, and my community have now despite the current crisis, especially compared to other countries. John shares, out of joint. So much of life seems so unjointed right now. Monica shares, the blessing includes suffering. And the last one in the chat that I see is from Diana that says, prevailed, finding new ways to keep doing, even in these times. If anyone else has a word or reflection that they'd like to share, I'd invite you to do so.
Daybreak, new beginnings in my life.
My first was I will not let you go. And I think sometimes when the going gets tough, I turn away from God instead of that being when I'm supposed to turn even more to him.
Thank you, friends, and thank you, Peace Interns, for leading us in this prayer practice. We sent out over email a set of pamphlet that is instructions on the Lectio Divina that was included as part of Camp in a Box for several different regions over the summer. It is a way that you can use this Lectio Divina practice in small groups, in youth groups and settings such as this one, even virtual spaces, but also works as a personal devotion as well. And so I'd invite you to continue trying on this spiritual practice, trying on this prayer practice, and knowing that it is one that can bless and touch us in surprising and unexpected ways. As we move forward, rooted and grounded in the prayer practice that we have just shared, we're going to spend some time now getting to hear directly from our Peace Interns, getting to know them just a little bit and hearing about their summers, what it was like to be a Peace Intern during a time of pandemic. But before we get to any of the summer experiences, let's take just a second to get to know backgrounds as well. So for the Peace Interns, would love to hear from you all about what were you doing before you became a Peace Intern, and what made you want to be a Peace Intern in the first place. And this time we'll go Wendy, then Raphael, then Jennifer. So Wendy, take it away.
So I'm going to swap the order of these two questions because it makes more chronological sense in my story. I grew up in the Disciples, and I grew up going to church camps, and I still remember a couple of the Peace Interns that we had back whenever I was a camper, and just the ways that they opened new horizons and shared with me things that I had no idea about. And so I really think that that planted the seed way back when, probably 10 years ago now, in my own journey to one day become a Peace Intern. And then more recently, I have gone to seminary. I just graduated from Bright Divinity School in May. So that's what I was doing just before I came and became a Peace Intern. I was finishing up my MDiv. So very excited to be done. But being at Bright and being surrounded by people who care so much about justice and bringing with me also like the experience with Peace Interns and how much I that instilled for me a care for peace, and combining the two of those, the Peace Internship was just the perfect opportunity to really explore both of those and explore them together. So that's what I was doing, and that's why I'm here.
Amen. Thank you, Wendy. Segue here. Speaking of seminary, Raphael, how about you?
Yeah, before I became a Peace Intern, I actually finished up my first year at seminary. I go to ILF School of Theology. There's where I am currently at, doing my MDiv. And yeah, I really love it there, and that's what I'm doing right now. And what made me want to be a Peace Intern is an interesting question, because I never went to church camps, but I've always wanted to go to them. And I mean, I went to like one church camp, but it wasn't within like the disciples denomination. And I've always just wanted to be like a camp counselor in general, because I always saw in the movies that they look like really cool and everything. And I just wanted to be that sort of, in that sort of like, you know, leadership position. And I just having this opportunity just really, you know, made my whole summer, I guess, and made this whole thing possible. And it just made it. So yeah, that's my short answer.
Amen. Thank you, Raphael. And we hope that you'll be able to attend in-person church camps at some point in the future too, but are grateful you've had the opportunity with some of the online camps this summer. Jennifer, how about you?
Yes. So before becoming a Peace Intern, I was a Explore resident with the National Benevolent Association Explore program, which is when I was placed in Hiram, Ohio. While I was there, I was placed at Hiram Farm, which is a living learning community for adults with disabilities. And I was introduced to a lot of social justice issues. And I felt that during my time there, I was thrown issues and problems, but never solutions, which kind of developed this sense of powerlessness in me. And I don't like feeling powerless. I like to think I have some control. And so I had to go and find those solutions myself. And so when I saw a post on like Facebook for DPF looking for Peace Interns, I applied because I never want someone else to feel powerless and understand that they have control. And one of the biggest ways that we have control is about learning the issues and learning how they intersect with each other, but most importantly, what we can do to fix it. And so I just hoped to instill in the future generations a sense of control, power, and the belief that they are called to do justice work as well.
You're here. Thank you, Jennifer. Let's switch over to that next question then. Summer 2020. It has been a summer unlike any summer for Peace Interns ever. As near as we know, every single in-person church camp for the Christian Church Disciples of Christ was canceled this summer, which meant that there were some camps that went to online. There were some camps that decided not to. There were also all of these partnership opportunities with different Disciples Justice Ministry cohort group members to be able to plug in and do some work there. And so for the Peace Interns, would love to hear about what projects you've been working on this summer And for those of you who've had the opportunity to spend some time with some of the online camps, would love for you to be able to reflect on that too. What is it like to be a part of an online camp in the summer of 2020? And this time we'll go Jennifer, then Wendy, then Raphael. So Jennifer, what do you think?
This summer, we have been partnering with other justice ministries. I've been working very closely with Alliance Q, the Reconciliation Ministry. Wow. And of course, DPF, and also Disciples News Network, where we have read an article. So I wrote an article on a Poor People's Campaign, DPF, and Reconciliation Ministry. So we've developed a lot of resources there, along with doing some, for me, I really enjoy development and fundraising work. So I did a lot of that with Alliance Q. And then, of course, still doing online camps. So I had the opportunity to make a keynote speech for the Ohio region with Wendy, and then be part of the Florida region for their week-long camp experience. And then as well, just this past weekend in North California, Nevada region. It was a humbling experience to do this and to be part of someone's world. Because like they don't have to let you in, but they did, and many of those camps treated me like family, and I got that sense even over the virtual space. I did find it interesting, the difference. So with California and Nevada was CYF, Cairo and Junior, while Florida was CYF. So I got to experience sharing social justice with just about every age range. And there was many times that overlapped, and many things that I would have expected high schoolers to do that the middle schoolers did, and then things that middle schoolers did that high schoolers did. And they were definitely different, but each group definitely brought their own unique perspective to the social justice work. All in all, and I guess probably the conclusion, but also the beginning of something, is
I think we may have lost Jennifer.
doing this and being part of the online camp. Doing these online camps has fired within me a passion for teaching. So I'm hoping to do a few years of teaching. So yeah. So I think especially for the camps, that was really big for me.
Amen. Thank you, Jennifer. And that sense that you can build community, even in these virtual spaces, has been a real revelation for a lot of us this summer, as well as that you can feel call in this time too. And that call to become a teacher and spend time and energy in that way is such a blessing. Wendy, haven't had the opportunity to be involved with as many of the online camps, but have had so many different projects that you have been a part of and different groups you've been working with. Would love to hear some of that.
Yeah, so just a quick plug for Sunday. Raphael and I did work on developing a workshop on pride and LGBTQ plus justice. So if you want to pop over on Sunday, you can experience what that might be like. But yeah, some of the other things, really early on in the process, Brian invited a bunch of folks to come and talk to us about their justice ministries. And so we got a chance to like kind of hear their elevator pitch and hear what projects they were working on that they would be excited to have us be a part of. And living in Texas, immigration is one of those things that is important to me. And so I have had the chance to work with Refugee and Immigration Ministries with Sharon Stanley Ray, which has been a lot of fun and very exciting. I participated in the Asylum Advocacy Days, which was also a new experience for them. They took what is normally an in-person event, going and actually speaking to your legislatures, and turned it into an online thing where they coordinated all of the phone calls and Zoom calls with various legislators, which is a really neat and exciting opportunity to actually be a part of advocating for policy change. And we're also currently working on hashtag 40 for 40. This is the 40th year anniversary of the 1980 Refugee Act, which was a pretty landmark legislation. Obviously, like, there's still work to be done. And Disciples Refugee and Immigration Ministries is posting 40 every work day, so Monday through Friday, 40 days in a row, 40 posts, leading up to Congress making new decisions on refugees moving forward in the coming year. So we're trying to raise awareness and get people and congregations involved in calling their representatives and advocating for being a strong welcome for refugees. So hashtag 40 for 40. I invite you to get on all of your social media platforms and check it out. Let me just, that's the way it's written. It's been really cool. I've had the opportunity to work with congregations, collecting their stories of working with refugees and those seeking asylum, to just share those stories with the wider church, which has just been so cool. And one of the other organizations that I've been working with this summer has been Green Chalice. And that actually culminated in, I don't know if y'all were I don't know what their publicity was like, but they hosted a eco camp, an online intergenerational eco camp. And I had the opportunity to craft a video, make a keynote on shalom in small spaces. I've been in apartments and dorms for the last 7 years of my life, and so figuring out how to grow things in those spaces. Brian would know where that video is if you want to go see it. But Jennifer and I are going to be talking about eco-justice more generally come Monday, so you should come visit. And all three of us are working together with Reconciliation Ministries on a Choose Your Own Adventure anti-oppression tool, empathy tool, Bible study that we will be talking more about on Tuesday. So Brian said this was a capstone. Now you get some idea why. You're going to see all of the things that we've been working on all summer.
You're here, and a wonderful job teasing some of the other things that will be coming and some of the events that will be happening. The Peace Interns have done remarkable work this summer, and it's really great to have the opportunity to be able to share it here at the end. It's honestly something that we haven't had the chance to do with previous crops and classes of interns before. Maybe we've had the notes that an intern has used as they've delivered a keynote, but we haven't actually had the video itself of the keynote. We haven't had interactive resources that the interns could work on and put together and then share, not just with a particular small group or a particular camp, but with the wider church and the wider world as well, which has been one of the exciting things this summer. Raphael, I would love to hear from you. Thoughts on this summer, projects you've been a part of, camps you've been a part of?
Yeah, so similar to the rest of everyone, I've been working on, working on articles for the Just Summer news service. I've done articles for Alliance Q, for the we just submitted an article for I just forgot what it was about. But there's another article coming out on the Palestine-Israel Network and the Justice for Children ministry coming out next week, I believe, that I wrote. So be on the lookout for that. And I'm also working with Alliance Q on educational resources for the transgender and gender diverse people, which I'm going to be working with Alliance Q on making some sort of like community awareness, so like resources to have a resource for community for transgender and gender diverse people to have community, a source of community for people of transgender and Christian sort of intersection, so that can be a resource for them because we're very lonely here. We've also done, me and Wendy have done our workshop at the camp in Virginia. That's called it's not pronounced Camp DD, it's called Camp, I believe it's pronounced. And that was very fun. The kids there loved it. It was a very, I honestly very enjoyed that camp as well, because they had like a lot of like little entertaining games. At one point they had a little game that was like, they pulled a card and said like, oh, this sing a song that has this word, and these kids just started singing songs that had a word with it, and it was just so fun. It was so entertaining. So camps can happen, even like just like any camp would happen in person, but on Zoom, like kids still have it in them, if they really wanted to. So that's been my experience, and yeah.
Amen. Thank you, Raphael. Thank you, everyone, for sharing a glimpse of what the summer's been like for you, as well as previewing a little bit of what the next few days are going to be like with our different sessions. Let's switch gears ever so slightly to talk about some of the disappointments this summer. There were many things that we were hoping were going to get to happen and had worked pretty hard behind the scenes to set up some new experiences for you all that ended up not being able to come together, or in some cases happen at all. So would love to hear from you all. What was disappointing about this summer? What were you hoping to get out of this summer that didn't happen? And Jennifer, you're going to kick this one off for us as well.
I would say probably my biggest disappointment was the 2020 experience. Yeah. I was so looking forward to that. When I heard about it at GA, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Never really thought I would have gotten an opportunity. And then DPF was like, no, we're sending y'all. And then it didn't happen. So I felt like my heart was just crushed 3 times or something. But I was really excited to just gather in a meeting place of more disciples. Of course, camps. I also have not been to summer camps, did not get that opportunity growing up. So I was really looking forward to understanding and engaging in the camp life. And along those lines, and probably my biggest disappointment is I'm a hugger, and there was definitely going to be an opportunity for me to hug a lot of people and get to know them. And I did not get a chance to really do that. Because I love connections, I love people, and I know I could definitely have gotten more relationships built if things were in person.
Oh, amen, Jennifer. Every word of that hits home and feels true. For folks who might not know, the 2020 experience was going to be the first ever joint gathering of National Convocation, Obra Hispana, and NAPAD. It was going to be happening on the campus of Texas Christian University. It was going to be a week of meetings and sessions and seminars and worship, and was just going to be beautiful. has been postponed, not canceled. And so another year we will have the opportunity to gather and do that. But DPF was going to have a presence there too. Our Peace Interns were going to get a chance at the 2020 experience to lead a workshop and talk about what it was like to be a Peace Intern. I'm really sad that we didn't get that chance to all be together in TCU and for the 2020 experience. Right on, Jennifer. Raphael, how about you?
For me, honestly, everything that could have been done in person. I wish I could have gone to the summer camps because, like I said, I've never really gone to summer camps as a kid, so I really wanted to experience that. The march in DC was something I was really looking forward to. I would have loved to seen that. Just I don't know, just meeting everyone in person in general. Like now coming to the end of the summer, I just tend to reflect a lot, just thinking like, man, like how would it have been if like we were actually like in person and everything. So just reflecting and just thinking about how would it have been different if like we all saw each other in person and like I could have felt Jennifer's hugs or just been with everyone in person and just like experience that and how radically different it would have been. So yeah, I think that would just be just different for me, and I just would have loved to experience that.
You're here. Thank you, Raphael. Yeah, we had this kind of surreal experience on a Zoom call, in July, I suppose, where we realized that none of us knew how tall any of the rest of us were. We'd spent all this time together. We'd had all of these conversations. We'd been working at this point for months together, but had never been in the same room together with each other. So didn't have that kind of sense or feel. We have a couple of previous Peace Interns who are on the call right now. Just imagine being a Peace Intern, but not being with people, not spending your summer meeting new people and connecting and all that. It's almost the exact opposite of what an experience is in a traditional year for the Peace Interns. Wendy, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, ditto to everything that has been said. I've probably been looking forward to the Poor People's Campaign for 6 months, and then for that to not happen in the way that we were expecting it to happen, that was hard. Not being able to be at camps, not being able to sit with a small group of excited youth who are passionate about making the world a better and brighter place, not being able to have conversations about justice with them, not being able to have difficult conversations. I think it's harder to have the most difficult conversations whenever you're not in a room together and can't just get up and shake it out for 30 seconds, when you can't know that you're looking somebody in the eye. It's so hard to really look people in the eye digitally. That has been one of the hardest things. But I mean, more than anything else, it's knowing that like the initial meeting with the Peace Interns and our closing retreat with the Peace Interns, those aren't going to be in person. Like I have never met my fellow Peace Interns in person. And gratefully, like we've had the opportunity to talk to each other probably more than any other cohort of Peace Interns, getting together at least once a week on Zoom to just fill each other in on what we're working on and how life is going and how we're holding up amidst all of the crazy. Been enormously grateful for that, but wish we could have had at least some of these conversations in person.
Here. Thank you, Wendy, and thank you for the segue that you just tossed my way as well, making this easy on me. Yes, one of the things that this particular cohort of Peace Interns has been able to do is have regular weekly meetings. So we're going to take a little intermission right here in the middle of our session, give our Peace Interns a break. Feel free to give them a little clap or applause. Use that reaction button to be able to share a thumbs up for them. They're doing such a wonderful job sharing with you right now. We're going to give them a break, take a sip of water, do what you can. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we've been calling the Dream Team. From the beginning with our cohort group, we knew that this was going to be a summer unlike any other. We didn't know that it was going to be nearly the summer that it has been, but wanted to be able to build in systems of support for them right from the very beginning. And so a few members of the executive committee, which is the governing committee for Disciples Peace Fellowship, offered to carve out time from their weeks, every single week, for a 90-minute meeting to be able to check in with the Peace Interns, to be able to work with them literally week by week, recreating this internship. Typically over the summer, we know exactly what's going to happen from the summer. We have the camps all mapped out. We have the flights all booked up. We usually even know who's going to pick them up from the airport and what house they're going to stay in when they're going to be overnight somewhere. This summer was completely different. We finished up training week at the beginning of June and literally didn't know what was going to happen the next week or the week after that or the week after that. And so the Dream Team came together as a group of leaders within DPF, 3 folks who had been Peace Interns before, to be able to talk about, okay, what are the opportunities that we have? What are the partnerships that we can work out? What are some of the projects that we can put together? But more importantly, it also became a community, a place for us to be able to gather, to share our frustrations in what has been just a surreal time these last few months, to be of support with one another, to be in prayer with one another. It's that kind of intentional community that we don't get the opportunity to have with Peace Interns every single summer, particularly when you're going from relatively remote church camp to relatively remote church camp with a very quick stop off at an airport in between. To be able to say every single Friday at 1 o'clock, we're going to be sitting down together and we're going to have a conversation about this experience and about how our Peace Interns are doing. Really has been life-giving. I can say personally, as a form of testimony, it has been life-giving for me to have this time to be able to share with the Peace Interns in this way, and has been a real blessing and a gift, so much so that members of the executive committee are already trying to consider, even in a traditional year, what ways could we build in some of the systems of support that we've seen with the Dream Team? What are ways that we can try to carry forward this idea that the Peace Interns can know that, yeah, there is a group of people that are right here walking along with you, praying along with you, that want to be able to check in, hear how your week's going, and help you figure out what the next steps are going to be. We're still discerning and working on that. I'm really grateful that another member of our Dream Team is here on the call with us right now. That Dream Team is myself, Kristen Walling, Krista Johnson Wixel, and Chrissy Stonebreaker Martinez. And Kristen, if you could, I'd invite you to unmute yourself for a second and just tell us a little bit about what the Dream Team experience has been like for you, particularly as someone who was a previous intern before.
Yeah, it's been such an interesting summer, and I'm gonna date myself a little bit here, but I was an intern before smartphones had really swept through everybody owning at least one, if not several. And so over the years, I've kind of reflected on how camp has changed and how technology and social media have really changed camp. And, you know, camps that decide to allow youth to have phones with them or not. And I just never would have imagined that this was a summer where technology made the Peace Intern experience and the camp experience look very different in a really, really different way. And I've been so inspired by this summer's interns who have been incredibly creative and flexible and hardworking, and probably have worked even harder than they would have at camp, where they would have been exhausted all summer. And it's similar to what others have said, it's been a very life-giving time every week to be able to check in. And I similarly started a new job the week that Washington, D.C. started shutting down. And so I have been really grateful for my colleagues that have been able to try to help onboard me and get to know me virtually. I have spent all of 30 minutes with my boss face-to-face during my interview. And so it's been good, you know, learning from the interns and what has been useful for them. And I've taken a lot of their suggestions and questions and taken them into my own workplace and said, like, here's what I need. And this is what support looks like right now when none of us know each other face to face. So it's been a great summer, and I'm so happy to see such a large group of people here. And I know that the interns have prepared some incredible content this summer that you'll get to see if you're able to come back for additional sessions over the next couple of days.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you. And thank you for being a part of the dream team as well. It's been a great experience, and I'm really, really grateful that we've had previous interns who've been able to give reflections, thoughts on their own experiences and the ways that it can fit into this very, very different and interesting year. But one of the other pieces to lift up is that with this dream team time, we really have been able to develop the relationships and watch the relationships that the Peace Interns have with each other develop. I'm really grateful that that has happened, specifically because we didn't have the chance to do some of the face-to-face pieces that were going to happen. You've heard mentioned during the disappointments section about that Poor People's campaign. The grant that we had from Week of Compassion was going to allow the Peace Interns to spend the entire week in Washington, D.C. ahead of the Poor People's campaign. They would have been working directly with some of our partners who are there based in DC, would have had the chance, because of the way that timing worked out, literally would have been in Washington, DC, most likely with Sharon Stanley Ray on the day that the DACA decision was announced. And so to have missed that opportunity was difficult. That said, one of the things that we really have been trying as the planning team with Disciples Peace Fellowship for years to figure out is how can we share our Peace Interns more widely with so many of our partners. Yes, we have the relationships with the church camps. That's wonderful. That's incredible. It's a real blessing. But there are also other justice ministries happening in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. And one of the opportunities that this summer really gave us was the chance to finally do that. To say, okay, what does it look like to have interns who can plug in and work directly with Alliance Q on some projects, with Green Chalice, with Refugee and Immigration Ministries? What would it look like if the Peace Interns spent the entire summer building relationships with all of the different Disciples Justice Ministry groups and then writing feature articles about each one of them to be shared with the wider church? It's been an incredible opportunity that way, and hopefully will also be something that we can carry forward from this summer into future experiences for Peace Interns. I would be absolutely stunned if we go back to just having Peace Interns going from church camp to church camp to church camp for an entire summer experience. I think going forward into the future, we'll certainly be trying to build in ways that Peace Interns can plug directly in with some of those other groups, can do some of that additional work. And for folks who have served as Peace Interns before, you might appreciate this too, might be able to go home in the middle of a Peace Intern summer to do some of that too, which isn't something Peace Interns traditionally get to do, but has been something that the Peace Interns this summer have been able to. Okay, that's the dream team. That's the ways that summer's been different and some of the cool things that have happened. We're going to come to the second half of our program now, friends. I've got 2 more sets of questions for our Peace Interns, and then would love to hear questions directly from folks who are gathered here in the room If you have a question, feel free to use that chat button. Go in, type it in there, and we'll do our best to be able to bring it to the Peace Interns towards the end. As we switch gears, okay, here we go. We've had our intermissions. All right, Peace Interns, little shake, little stretch, stretch. I can see you all. I see that I'm the only one doing this. There we go. All right. Oh, there we go. I see Kristen stretching too. Excellent. All right. Self-care. Self-care is always one of the questions for Peace Interns, one of the difficult things to do over a Peace Intern summer. Would love to hear from you all reflections on how you've been taking care of yourself and your spirit this summer. And if we could be honest and real with each other, what's worked? What hasn't worked? What's self-care been like for you? We'll go Raphael, then Jennifer, then Wendy this time around. So Raphael, over to you.
So I have been taking a lot of naps. And I've also done some sort of care practices that Randy has given us. I've done the three questions. I don't know if people are familiar with the 3 questions, but basically it's you ask yourself towards the end of the day these 3 questions, like what am I grateful for, and stuff like that. And what I like to do with that is I've actually bought myself some frankincense and myrrh incense sticks, and I light it towards sunset instead of at the end of the day because it's kind of aesthetically pretty. And I put it at my windowsill and just like sort of like sit down, contemplate, and pray over it, and just sit with the spirit and kind of let that just sit with me and I kind of measure the time. It's approximately an hour while the stick kind of burns through, and I kind of do that every now and then. I used to do it every night, but then it kind of got exhaustive, so I do it every now and then now. It's a very meditative, very cleansing kind of thing. So that's what I do. And I don't really know how to answer what hasn't worked or what has worked. So I'll just leave it at that.
Amen. Thank you, Raphael. Jennifer, how about you?
So to take care of myself this summer, I have been spending time with family. So earlier in the summer, when we first started, I was actually in Ohio. And then I went down to New Orleans, which is where my parents live. I would say probably my happiest place this summer because like there's crawfish and I love seafood and I will always be happy to eat seafood. So that really was kind of like it for me. I remember days where I was like, oh, like it's just so much. And then I'll just go to a seafood market and buy crawfish. But then halfway through, I traveled to Florida, yet another COVID-19 hotspot. And for 4th of July, my family got together at my brother's house. And so I've been staying here for the last month, just kind of being in a different scenery. So while I'm here, I've been working out, going for walks, bird watching, which is like the weirdest thing ever. I kind of got into because like right behind my brother's house is a pond, so there's always like ducks and cranes and geese, and so it's like been pretty cool to just watch them. And then reading, I've been, especially through like COVID, for like I just got really back into reading. I have actually read a whole series now, and a lot of other books. So one of my favorite books that I got to read has been Fresh Ink. And the book I'm on right now, I can't say the whole title, but it's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving. And it's all about like self-confidence and just kind of pushing through things and being the best you can be. Let's see, what else? Also prayer. So especially this summer, I kind of also realized I have a knack for praying. I don't know how that happened. And so I've kind of just been sitting down writing prayers. Kind of been toying with the idea of maybe writing a prayer book, because I have a lot of handwritten prayers now that I have used this summer and through my Explore year. I would say the things that have worked is definitely having the Dream Team as a sounding board. They have definitely been there to hear us rant, there with advice, and just allowing us to have our woosah moments. For me personally, I don't think one of the things that has worked is moving. I wish like I enjoy moving. I like traveling, but I kind of wish, especially with all that was happening, that I could just like teleport to each place instead of like having to drive through like 4 states to get there. So that really hasn't worked.
I think 2 things there that would resound with Peace Interns every single summer, Jennifer. I wish I could teleport to where I need to get to. Amen. Absolutely. As well as I found out I have a knack for praying. That those are 2 incredible gifts and reflections. Yeah, thank you. Wendy, how about you? What's self-care been like for you?
Probably the biggest source of self-care was one that I kind of accidentally stumbled into. I have a backyard for the first time since I graduated from high school. And so I planted a garden. And for me, caring for my garden has become a time of self-care. It's something that I have to do in the morning. I can't put it off because I don't have time, because if I do that, then my plants might die. I have to take care of them first thing because there are things like watering and checking the leaves that you need to do before it gets really hot and while you still have good light. And just like having to make time for my garden and thus for myself before I do anything else. And I realized that using my garden for self-care is not a normal Peace Intern experience. This be a little bit difficult to tote your garden around in buckets, although theoretically possible, I suppose. And I don't think I would have even stumbled into this opportunity if it hadn't been for the work that I had been doing with Green Chalice. And just using that time in the garden to pray and talk to God and think about the things that I can change, like watering and checking for bugs, and thinking about the things that I can't change. I can't change how fast my plants grow. I can't change that squash vine borers ended up in my plants. I can do what I can to rescue them after the fact, but learning to recognize what I can change and what I can't, and realizing more deeply how firmly I need to be rooted, and how important it is to take care of myself, so that just like my plants, if I don't take care of them, they're going to dry up, they're going to wilt. If I don't take care of myself, the same thing is going to happen.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Wendy. Peace Interns over the years have talked about the personal item that they've brought with them for their travels. Doug Collins, who's one of the co-moderators for DPF right now, tells the story about how he brought his guitar with him everywhere. I don't know that we've ever had a Peace Intern bring like a bucket garden, but that would be something to think about and consider. And I love the way that gardening has turned into such a spiritual discipline for you, Wendy. For folks who haven't had the opportunity yet to see the video that Wendy put together for the soil camp, I hope that you'll take advantage of that. I'll let you know towards the end where you can find more of the resources that the Peace Interns have been working on. We've touched on it throughout our time together, but one of the big pieces that the Peace Interns have done this summer is that they have been working for Disciples News Service. This has been the hashtag DOC Just Summer campaign, so that each week, all summer long, a different Disciples Justice Ministries cohort group has been lifted up with a feature article that was written by our Peace Interns, and then typically with some sort of Facebook Live event that they were doing to be able to introduce themselves. All of that is being cataloged at disciples.org. So if you haven't been keeping up, you've got a chance to catch up. The list of questions that the Peace Interns have been asking all of our different justice ministries always ended with this question that we have before us right now. And the question is, where do you see hope? And so would love to hear from the Peace Interns as we're starting to wrap up our time. Where do you see hope right now? Hope in our church, in your life, in your neighborhood, in our world, hope anywhere. Where do you see hope? And Wendy, you're going to get a chance to start us off here, then Jennifer, then Raphael.
The people. I see hope in my fellow Peace Interns, in the passion that they have for justice and peace. I see hope in all of the people that we've had the opportunity to work with. April Johnson from Reconciliation Ministries, Sharon Stanley Ray from Refugee and Immigration Ministries, just all of the people who were faced with this thing that nobody was expecting. Nobody knew how to handle this COVID thing that just kind of threw everybody's life out of whack, and seeing the ways that so many people have come together to continue to make sure that refugees and immigrants are being cared for and aren't being forgotten in the midst of, a global crisis, a global pandemic, and to make sure that LGBTQIA plus youth are still being cared for and heard and have resources to find each other and find support, even as in-person gatherings are so severely limited. Just all of the ways that people are making sure to continue to reach out to those who need to be reached out to. That's where I've seen hope. That's where I see hope.
Hope in the people. Beautiful. Jennifer, how about you? Oh, Jennifer? No, not sure if we still have you, if you can hear me. Let's see, we might have a connection issue there. Raphael, is it okay if we hop over to you and then we can go back to Jennifer if we get a chance?
So I think I would have to agree with Wendy in the people in I mean, there's so many things going on right now that a lot of people are just falling into the negative, and I think a lot of people are not seeing that the younger generation are like I see a lot of hope towards the younger generation, I would say, because the younger generation have a lot of like good things that they are striving for. I think the younger generation have has like a good idea of what they want to work towards, and so I think that we should keep empowering the younger generation to keep working towards the good for the world, and I think um we should keep amping up the younger generation, because I have a lot of hope for the younger generation. The younger generation is where I see the hope. Is where the hope lies for me. Is the people in the younger generation. So yeah.
Hear, hear. Hope in that younger generation and in the leadership blessings and gifts that they bring us and that they share. I have hope in the resilience of these peace interns and in technology that occasionally cooperates even when it doesn't. Jennifer, I see, has hopped back on from a different device. And so Jennifer, we are thankful to you for making sure that even connectivity issues and technology isn't going to stop us from being able to share the good news and the word today. Wendy and Raphael have just shared with us their responses to that question on what brings them hope. Wendy said the people, Raphael said the younger generation. I would love to hear, Jennifer, from you. What brings you hope right now?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, things can't just go well. I have to make sure there's an issue somewhere. But I would say the grace that we are giving each other, especially during this time, with working with Poor People's Campaign and Reconciliation Ministry, I have just been amazed at the fact that people are willing to at least learn and acknowledge and gain knowledge on situations. I'm a very big about like knowledge and teaching kind of person. And I've been kind of part of a Bible study that has been happening this summer with How to Be an Anti-Racist book. And one of the big ones is, just educating ourselves and educating together. I think there's a lot we can do when we're together. There's a lot we can achieve when we do it together. It has been amazing to work on projects together this summer with the other peace interns, which I know kind of really doesn't happen in a usual summer. And then also just being introduced to new and wonderful things. So one of my favorite things, and I am now I have wasted a lot of time. I should say waste. But when I was at the Nevada and California region camp, I learned about Christian TikToks. And that is just so amazing that this younger generation is taking on the issues of this world and are not afraid to say, hey, look, I am a follower of God, and I can still have fun. I can still bring laughter and peace and joy into this world. So I would say that's where I probably see hope right now.
Oh, what fertile ground for recruitment of new DPF Peace Interns as well. Christian TikTok. There we go. Thank you, Jennifer. Friends, as we're coming to the end of our time, I've been following along on the chat, haven't seen any questions pop up for our interns. So what I would like to do instead is just a little bit of housekeeping here at the end. For everyone who has been a part of this Zoom conversation, really grateful and glad that you have been here with us. It is the first of 5 sets of programs that we have coming up. If you are here, it means that you got the Zoom room link invitation, which means that you are on the email listserv that we have. Each day, you'll be getting an updated invitation for that day's program. Tomorrow is going to be a program on intersectionality and justice that Jennifer will be leading, including a game that she invented to be able to introduce what intersectionality is. You're going to want to be here for that and be able to play it together in that Zoom room. On Sunday, we'll be meeting a little bit later in the day. That's going to be 7 o'clock Eastern. And it's going to be a chance to see and participate in the workshop that Raphael and Wendy created together on pride and uses, well, I'm going to let you wait until you see the email to find out what exactly it uses, but it's going to be a wonderful time together. Monday, you'll get to hear a little bit more from Wendy about eco-justice. And then on Tuesday, you're really going to want to be here for that one, Tuesday afternoon, 4 o'clock Eastern, when April Johnson from Reconciliation Ministries, our Minister of Reconciliation for the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, will be joining the Peace Interns for what we are humbly referring to as the world premiere of the Choose Your Own Adventure Anti-Oppression Bible Study that they spent the summer together working on. It is an incredible resource. You'll get a chance to learn what it is, play test through a little bit of it, as well as hear about the process that they used for creating it and putting it together. Am forever grateful to April for being a part of this, for offering that invitation, and then being so willing and open to the Peace Interns coming up with a project that was completely different than anything any of us ever would have imagined, and is so, so, so cool. Each day you'll be getting an email from me that'll have your Zoom link information for those days' sessions, a little description of what's going on, and where we can, a little cue in for a prayer practice or spiritual discipline that will be a part as well. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be great. My thanks to everyone who has been here in the room with us. My thanks to the legendary Peace Interns of 2020 for the summer that they are having and are in the midst of, and for the presentation that they just led us in. You might also be realizing that, now wait a minute, Peace Interns are usually done by the first week in August. It's because we actually found that this year there were so many projects and so many things and such incredible work that the Peace Interns were doing that we've extended them a whole nother month. Again, grateful to the good folks at Week of Compassion that let us repurpose the grant that was to go to that Washington, D.C. trip so that we could instead extend the Peace Interns' time and extend their experience, that they can wrap up some of the projects that they're working on and that they could lead, honestly, this project that you're a part of right now. Really grateful to the good folks at Week of Compassion, really grateful for all of the partners in ministry that have helped make this summer what it is for our Peace Interns, and for the remarkable and incredible work that they have been doing. We have this tradition, friends, that I would like to invite you to be a part of as well. We started doing this, the Peace Interns and I, during training week. When we had folks from all over the life of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ meet with us in Zoom rooms just like this, to be able to talk to the Peace Interns about the particular area or issue that they worked in, to be able to offer support to the Peace Interns, and honestly to do a little bit of recruiting as well. At the end of each one of those sessions, we would invite everyone to unmute themselves so that we could offer together a word of blessing and benediction. And so, friends, I'm going to invite you to do just that right now. In virtual rooms and spaces, it's so rare for us to be able to actually share in one voice a common refrain together. And so we're going to give it a shot right now, and honestly, at the end of each one of our sessions. I'm going to ask everyone to unmute themselves that we might together say, "Peace be with you." Peace be with you will be what we say, and we'll do that in 3, 2, 1.
Peace be with you.
Peace be with you.
Oh, woohoo, I like that too. Amen, everyone. This session has been recorded, and so a version of it will appear on DPF's YouTube page. It will also be rebroadcast on our Facebook Live page in a couple of hours. It's what we're calling our West Coast feed. So if you want to be able to catch back up, or maybe you missed a section, or if you want to invite a friend who wasn't here to be able to watch it, know that it'll be coming out that way this evening as well. Thank you, each and every one. Hope to see you again tomorrow afternoon for our next session, or any of the other sessions that are coming up. Peace be with you. Blessings.
And also with you.
This has been great. Thanks so much, everybody.